Welcome everybody to this CHAMP webinar on Cargospot integration to Nallian's truck visit management. Good morning, evening or afternoon. My name is Bart Haasbeek. I am based in Amsterdam and I am CHAMP's Head of Corporate Marketing, PR and Events. As usual, before we move on, a few housekeeping items. The duration of the webinar is around 45 minutes. We would like to engage with you and have lined up 2 poll questions for you. Tomorrow you will receive a recording of the webinar. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the tool, address them, and we will raise them during the webinar. Or we get back to you after the webinar. And if you have additional interest to learn more, please reach out to us and we will get back to you. So we have a packed agenda. We start with the introduction, then Christopher about CHAMP partners, doing more together, Nallian's truck visit management, streamlining freight pickups and drop-offs, the community approach by Air Cargo Belgium, Swissport, the bigger picture, it's all about data sharing, and the summary of the webinar, and then we will also raise the questions that you may have. So quickly, we have a full agenda and 4 panelists, so let me introduce today's speakers. First to kick off is CHAMP's Christopher Shawdon, Head of Business Development, followed by Nallian Sara van Gelder, Director of Products, Davide Scatorchia, Business Development and Optimization Manager for Air Cargo Belgium, and Jeroen Giling, Head of Cargo for the Netherlands, Belgium, Finland and at Swissport. They will teach us more about the Cargospot integration to Nallian's truck visit management, in short, TVM. So, open, collaborative, innovative. That's CHAMP's tagline, and this webinar is a true testament to this. Without stealing Christopher's thunder, let me please hand over to Christopher. Christopher, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bart, Jan, and hello to everybody. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Open, collaborative and innovative is on our homepage, and if you look at the menu at the end, there's an item called About Us. Click on that and it's got a section that's very important to me, partners. Because like an iPhone is a wonderful product on its own, it is made superlative by having a very wide range of apps available to users and integrated by Apple in a way that they trust, so we can all rely that app integration works well. In our terms of our partners, we have 3. We have industry partners, which are people like IATA, Tiaka, Cargo IQ, with whom we work to shape industry developments. The second group of partners are solution partners, and this is where Nallian fits. What we do as solution partners is we actually work very closely with them. We understand their workflow, we integrate their workflow into Cargospot, and we do all the API integration. And we've done that with Nallian, as we'll show you on today's webcast. And the third level of integration partners is API partners. And these are basically organizations that sell their own services direct to the Cargospot base, but are able, with permission, to get data from a client's Cargospot service to provide further integration. So we're strong on partners. The next image I'd like to give you is an e-gate. When I travel, maybe when you travel, increasingly we see wonderful e-gates, and I say they're wonderful because we arrive in a huge immigration hall, generally in my experience, and it's empty, and it's got about 30 or 40 e-gates at a big airport, and people are whistling through, and the reason they're whistling through is because everything is ready when they arrive. If there's a stop, that is where it happens, but generally if you're not from a country that is unapproved for e-gates, you will go through an e-gate and the whole process will be much faster. Well, what we're talking about today is an e-gate for cargo. So for a cargo import, the shed, the warehouse operator needs to know who is going to pick up, what they're going to pick up, the flight the goods are on, how many pieces of are in the shipment, whether it's ULD or loose, any special handling requirements. Of course, then people are able to book a slot, and then it's appropriate slot for that particular shipment. So all the work is done up front. I'm going to talk about the integration with Nallian as my final point, because Sara is going to explain the process in more detail. From a Cargospot integration, when a shipment has arrived, in FSU terms the ARR, at an eligible branch and becomes available for pickup, the notify, Cargospot updates the Nallian TVM solution with an API call containing the import agent, weight, volume, pieces, ULD, flight number, special handling codes and descriptions. It then knows what it needs to know, and TVM can be used to manage the pickup at the appropriate gates and times. And there's another stage. When the shipment has been collected, the DLV, another API updates TVM again, so the whole process can be closed and both Cargospot and TVM are in sync. Just like an eGate, it makes things really fast. And of course, the sent messages and responses show in Cargospot messages. So I said this is really priming like an eGate. I think what we now need to hear is, how does it actually work in practice? Bart-Jan.
Thank you, Christopher. I'm sure we have a few questions later on for you. So audience, if you have any questions, please use the tool. And you already introduced Sara. So Sara will go into more depth about the solution. So let's just kick off straight away. And Sara, I will give you the power of the mouse and the screen.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Bart-Jan, and thank you, Christopher, for setting the scene. Hello, everyone. As mentioned, I will introduce to you Nallian's truck visit management solution and how this collaborates with CHAMP's Cargospot. Truck visit management solution is focused on streamlining landside freight pickups and drop-offs, typically at ground handling agents' warehouses or at self-handling airlines. So what we see is that at a landside situation, typically ground handling agents or self-handling airlines face a lot of challenges in streamlining the landside handover of freight. This results often in suboptimal use of square meters, inefficient personnel planning, a very paper-based and administrative heavy handover process, waiting times for trucking companies and forwarders, and a negative impact on the carbon footprint. When you start streamlining that process, you will be able to reap some benefits like maximize your warehouse capacity and reduce parking square meters or use the limited square meters in the most efficient way. Plan your staff ahead in view of activity, but also streamline the activity by eliminating peaks in waiting times and fill up idle times. And we, of course, help you to reduce the administration, paperwork, and stress of your staff, since all shipment details will be able to be shared in advance and paperless. So the key goal of our solution is to empower cargo handlers or self-handling airlines, freight forwarders, and trucking companies to coordinate that freight pickup and drop-off at the land site. What do our customers typically say, and what are the typical benefits they can reap is, on the one hand side, they are able to reduce the waiting times for the forwarders and trucking companies. Ground handling agents are able to turn around the cargo faster because they can prepare shipments at the correct dock door when they know in advance who will show up when to pick up which shipments for import, for example. On the other side, you are able to tackle questions from your customers better to improve your customer service because you just have more visibility. And as a forwarding agent or trucking company, you will be able to drop off the same amount of cargo or pick up the same amount of cargo with less truck movements, which has an incredible positive impact on your carbon footprint and costs. Now, what is our approach and how does that work? So we as Nallian, we typically support you and give you expert advice on designing your landside process. So we think together with you, we listen to the physical limitations you have in square meters, amount of dock doors, access control of your premises, remote parking, yes or no, to call forward trucking companies. And we fit in our solution as good as possible. We also offer you a phased approach towards a future-proof process, so we can implement it step by step. We do this with our standard product modules, which I will immediately quickly introduce to you. And we also offer you as a customer impact on our roadmap. We listen to the requirements you're still missing, and we will build them in our product, of course, when they fit strategically. We also share best practices on change management and ensure a successful implementation. Implementations can go via community approach when a full airport community starts to launch the solution, or can go directly when one handler wants to take the lead in a community, even when there's no community initiative ongoing. So what are our standard product modules? The first module is what we call our digital front desk. This allows truck drivers to self-register upon arrival at a ground handling agent, typically in the front desk area. They will be able to activate slots that are booked for them in advance, or they will be able to book ad hoc time slots when there was not a time slot reserved for them in advance. This can, of course, result in some waiting times when there's no capacity available at that point in time, so we will steer the capacity. And we have a multilingual interface there. The second module and core of our solution is what we call slot management. It allows, on the one hand side, for ground handling agents to manage their dock door and personnel capacity. So they will be able to build a very flexible calendar of availability based on specific requirements and limitations of a dock door. Some dock doors can be used for import, roller beds, cooled cargo, so you can all configure that. At the other side of the application, we offer the possibility to forwarders and trucking companies to book those time slots. All involved stakeholders will at all points in time be able to follow up the status of their booking and see the capacity that is still available. Then our last but not least module, and where our synergies with Champ really come to the surface, is what we call digital handover rights. Here we integrate with Champ's Cargospot, and we give the forwarder and trucking company a clear overview of which shipments can be master airway bills, part of master airway bills, or intact ULDs are available for pickup and drop-off. Today, this integration is focused on import, but it will not be limited to that towards the future. This is the first step we take together. In practice, here you see some print screens of our solution, but we're always very open to give you an in-depth demo, so please feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in that. You can see here how you create a booking, how bookings are represented in a calendar view, and how you have the digital handover rights overview based on the integrated data with Cargospot. As mentioned before, you have impact on our roadmap as well. I will just highlight quickly two of the roadmap features we're working on. We're working, for example, on a call forwarding screen, which you can use when you have a remote parking to call forward trucks which were maybe a bit too early for their time slot who need to wait when they only booked an ad hoc slot. We're also having realized an MVP of the vehicle and driver database integration, which helps you to register your drivers and vehicles, link them to the time slots, and even integrate this with automatic access point control like ANPR cameras. This can, for example, help you to give automated access to the correct truck that drives up to your premises when they are right in time for the time slot they have booked in advance. More roadmap examples can be given, but as mentioned, we can go into an in-depth meeting with you on that. And then what we also wanted to share is that we help you with the change management and implementation process. And what you see here is an example dashboard we have been building together with our customers in Brussels to really follow up the correct usage of the system. The change management and implementation is equally important as a technology, and this will help you to follow up who uses a slot booking in a correct way, where you see no-shows from some of the forwarders or trucking companies, how you can steer that behavior, how you can manage the late cancellations, etc. And now I would like to hand over back to Bart-Jan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you. That was very interesting. I made a few notes. Empower ground handlers, empower the supply chain. That's why you do this. So that's indeed a very good statement. And then I saw the Nippon Express quote about, and you mentioned footprint and sustainability. I have a special interest in that. I will explain that later on in a few minutes. But let's get back to that at the Q&A section. So let's raise some questions to the audience now, and please do not feel shy to participate, but also to ask us some questions. There are not that many questions yet in the tool. Let me launch the first question. And the first question is, what is your current status of your landside management? Is it an urgent or strategic priority? Could it be improved? Is it a higher priority? It could be improved, but it's not a priority. Or you don't have any issues, or it's not applicable to you. What is the current status of your landside management? So this question may not be applicable to everybody. That's indeed what is already the results is showing. I see that the votes are getting in. We need a little bit more, so I'm keeping it open for an additional minute or so, or a little bit less. Yeah, it has been open now for a minute. And we are well over the 50% of the responses. So let's close this question and make the results visible. And Sara, maybe you could comment on the results.
It's very nice to see that for more than half of the attendees, or the ones who voted for this poll, it's an urgent strategic priority or a high priority. That's also what we feel from the market. There's a lot of traction on ground handling agents, self-handling airlines. We do realize that the partner management with forwarders and trucking companies and streaming their landside have a huge impact on their full operation. So very nice to read this. This shows that our partnerships will have an added value in the market.
Yeah, and that shows also that it will be high on their agenda, which is always positive. The next question, are you currently integrating data to improve landside management? Are you integrating data to improve landside management? Yes, no, but we should, or not applicable. So let's wait indeed another minute. The votes are getting in now. It's 50-50, 67-33, so more votes, percentages change. Just a few more. We should be around the 60% mark. Oh yes, more people are now voting than the previous question, so that's interesting. So I will close this question and share, and briefly your comments again, maybe, Sara.
Again, very nice to see that almost 40% mentions that they're not yet doing it, but should. And also good to see that there are some examples leading the market already. In the next presentations, we will hear some of those examples. So again, thank you very much for these results. Good to see.
Yes, thank you, Sara. Thanks. Indeed, quite positive. So thank you also, audience, for voting. Let's go to the next speaker. And I just mentioned about sustainability. Davide Scatorchia is also a little bit of a colleague of mine. I am a member of the Innovation and Sustainability Committee of Air Cargo Belgium. So that's why this specific footprint question also to Sara. So Davide, let's go to you, and could you explain something more about the community of Air Cargo Belgium and what drives you?
Yeah, sure, Bart, no problem. Thanks for the introduction, and hello to everyone, and thanks for joining this webinar. Just before I start and tell you why we believe and support the initiatives that Sara and Christopher talked about, a very quick word about Air Cargo Belgium, because not everyone here might know us. So Air Cargo Belgium is the community organization at Brussels Airport Cargo. We represent air freight stakeholders, and currently we have like 158 members. Most of them are regular air freight stakeholders like ground handling agents, freight forwarders, and airlines, of course. What we do for these stakeholders are community projects. With every project that we do, we try to create added value for the community. And that's our key task. Another important thing that we do is networking and lobbying. Of course, bringing the community together is also one of the key tasks of a community organization, and we try to be the voice of Bruk Cargo. In a nutshell, our key tasks. our mission is we strive to make Cargo the most attractive, efficient, innovative, digital and successful logistical platform. And I underline digital in our mission because digitization is one of our key pillars. And I think that is something not that we are only looking at. I assume digitization is high on everyone's agenda, also for the people here present today. And from Air Cargo Belgium or in Brussels, we started our digital journey already in 2016 at the very start of the company. And at that time, together with Brussels Airport Company and Nallian, we created and supported the data sharing platform BlueCloud. And it is as of that moment, actually, that the digital transformation started in our community. Now, I can imagine in the last years that you all have taken steps towards working in a more digital way. And it's not different for us for Air Cargo Belgium. We introduced actually some of the modules that Sara talked about already some years ago. For example, the slot booking application she talked about. Also the digital desk application, the front desk application at the ground handling agents she talked about. We already have that in our community, but I think we could do more in terms of digitization. And that's why we also want to move forward in the third module that Sara introduced, the digital handover rights. And that's something that we believe could very much create an added value, and also the partnership with Champ that is involved in that third model. So why do we believe that could be of added value? First of all, it would be continuous improvement of the projects that we have already done. That first model, the slot booking, that second model, the digital desk application. So it would be building further on what we have done today. Second of all, if we create an API connection between the Champ system and our BlueCloud Nallian system, we would do a lot of data sharing, data that we don't have today. And by sharing data, of course, we create a lot of transparency to our stakeholders. And I think that's a very important topic, transparency, because isn't that what we all want when it comes to shipment details? Having that transparency, knowing where your shipment is all the time, what is going on with that shipment. So transparency is one of the most important things that we want to create. And I think it's also something that we all, as an air freight industry, are looking at. And second of all, or lastly, should I mention, with that transparency, of course, come operational improvements. If you have a more transparent logistical chain, you know what is going on. You can adapt your internal processes, you can adapt your operational processes, and that, of course, will lead to operational improvements. So looking at the future of air cargo, I think end-to-end visibility is a key part, and API integrations play an important role here. What we are trying to do in Brussels is setting up those API connections with multiple stakeholders. We are doing it now with Champ and Nallian from a handler perspective, but that's not enough. We think we should do more. We should look at other players in the chain as well. So we have to have an API connection as well with airlines, freight forwarders, trucking companies. We also have to look at customs, for example, federal bodies. They also play an important role in the logistical chain. And in my opinion, we should not be limited to our own industry, but also look at other airports, other airport community, so that we really have full end-to-end visibility. That's what we all should focus on, I think. And that was it from my side. Thank you all. Bart-Jan, I give the floor back to you.
Yes, thank you, Davide. Thank you. Yeah, so you are the facilitator and the spider in the web, so to say, and you're not only investing but also supporting these initiatives. And there will be some questions in a few minutes around that. Now let's go to our last speaker, who is who is very passionate about when it comes to this topic, my friend Jeroen Giling from Swissport. Jeroen, what are the bottlenecks and how do you improve them?
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Morning, afternoon, evening. From Swissport side, as being a handler, now we focus on especially on Brussels Airport. Indeed, Davide, as you stated, it could be extended to more, Because in this case, Brussels Airport is definitely an example whereby the cooperation between the stakeholders has proven itself. And as we have stated in one of the slides of Sara, there is indeed a 100% coverage on the landside management with the cooperation of JAMP and with the cooperation of Nallian and Air Cargo Belgium. Especially in this case, Air Cargo Belgium is very much involved. That's what we see. That's where the results are. I find it still a challenge. And indeed, as you stated, Sara, there is about 39% of the current audience which still has to do something on the landside management. So there is still a certain path to go. But from our side, it means that you use the comparison, Christopher, of the E-gate. In my case, I use the comparison of the restaurant. I want to be a 5-star restaurant, which means basically you have made a reservation, your table is ready, which means equal to the door, and everybody within the restaurant is expecting your visit. That's actually what we want to be, and Brussels is definitely an example on that. Also having in mind that we have some renovations which we have done in the past. I think especially on the first line facilities in Brussels Airport, there has been a huge renovation which has been done in the past years. So that definitely helps the landside management. And of course, in that sense, landside management is very important to us because it streamlines the process, and definitely it at least releases the burden of the waiting times. Yeah, because that always has been on the background. Data sharing, waiting times. Also from a security perspective, let's not keep that one out of scope. It's also a very important item that we know who is coming, that they are announced, and that we can actually speed up the process of either delivery, or acceptance. So from that point of view, on import, we are in that sense, landside-wise, we are at the beginning. From the point of view of export, in that sense, we are at the end. So very eager to hear any kind of Q&A. I think from the audience, we still have some path to go, because also the ones who are currently not connected to any kind of landside management system, I would urge you to be connected as well. It will only improve the total process on landside. Back to you, Bart.
Yes, thank you, Jeroen. We're going into the questions now. We have a panel discussion first, and in the meantime, we will raise the questions from the audience. So audience, please raise them now. The time is now. So yeah, congratulations, everybody. Something is happening in Brussels. You're walking the walk. So quite interesting. We stay with you, Jeroen, for now, and then Davide, I have a question to you about if you make this mandatory and how you roll out in Brussels. But first, Jeroen, how does Brussels compare to Amsterdam, as you have? Yeah, you're in the middle of both.
Yeah,
when it
indeed.
comes to landside.
Yeah. In this sense, on this particular topic, I have to state that especially the involvement of Air Cargo Belgium is much more stronger than what we see in the Netherlands, for instance. The total process of landside management, the community initiatives which are there, actually already installed, up and running. That's not the position where we currently are within the Netherlands yet. So in that sense, I have to state that Brussels is quite a step ahead, and that's only due to the fact that you see here that the partners and the community is really working together to get this done. And ultimately, it also has the appropriate results, which are definitely there. That's also the feedback which we have as Swissport, because we do not only communicate with the core, which we have to. So from a handling perspective, you would state airlines are your core, but at the same time we approach for the community as well, because we want to know and we want to listen how they experience our landside management. And there we also have the connections to see what kind of improvements do we have to make, or listen to the satisfactory levels which they have.
Yes, thank you. Davide, I already mentioned it. So change management, you're the facilitator, and the system is live, and the integration will be there. So how do you promote this? How do you make sure that the community is really adopting this initiative?
Yeah, for us, it's really important to engage with our stakeholders, of course. Knowing what is going on is really important. Understanding their processes is really important. So for us, it was really much engaging with the community and showing them the added value of the applications, of the modules that are offered within our community. And we took a step-by-step approach in Brussels, actually starting with first a slot booking application, because the waiting times here in Brussels, that was a real pain point for our community. So we started first with that slot booking application addressing the waiting times. And when the people, the community, the freight forwarders saw that that gave added value, if you book a slot, waiting times reduced, they were ready to take a next step into that digital transformation journey. So it was really looking for the low-hanging fruit and going bit by bit, part by part in the beginning. You mentioned it already a bit in the introduction, Bart, Jan. Later, it became a mandatory process in Brussels, that slot booking application. Why is that? Because we saw, and I think, Sara, you can very much relate to that, that the most added value comes when everyone is using the process 100%. If some people only are using it for 25%, 50%, it's really difficult also for a ground handling agent to do an optimized planning of their resources of their gate. So that's why we made it in Brussels later on, when everyone was already more in the correct mindsets, a mandatory process.
Yes, thank you. So you mentioned when everybody is using it. I briefly spoke to Jeroen earlier today, and I asked him what is your biggest pain point, and that is foreign trucks that are not known to arrive. And in my airline days, I must admit, I've sent a few pallets on UU status to the next station, and not everybody maybe knows maybe what UU means, but that means not confirmed, not visible, not on any manifest. It's not good. So this happens. Sara, how do you manage foreign trucks?
Very good question, Bart-Jan. What we typically advise to the ground handling agents rolling out the system is to also install the digital front desk module, because it helps you to streamline all visitors to your premises. So you can perfectly, via the multilingual interface, or have someone assisting the foreign truck drivers to also go through a registration upon arrival on your premises. Why? Even when they're not pre-registered or pre-booked a slot, at that point in time, they have the possibility to request a time slot based on the parameters they enter and the dock door capacity that is still available. And you are always in charge as a ground handling agent to make last-minute adjustments when that truck would be super urgent, but you at least collect data about which trucks do arrive unannounced. You can then still streamline that the process is followed in the same way. All trucks go to the same registration and are assigned to a dock door based on a planning, even though if that planning is made very late. That's not the ideal situation, but you gather data and you know how to improve it in the future and take next steps.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So Jeroen, in my airline days, I did export, and export, you always deliver as late as possible on a Friday, 20 tons on one flight, which departs on Saturday morning, which is a hassle, of course, as a ground handler, having to accept freight very late. So the bottleneck, is it more on the import side or on the export side? Where is it the best to streamline further?
Yeah, I think, Bart-Jan, from the point of view of air logistics, we cannot take away what is already existing for, I would say, already decades. Monday peak, import. Export peak, it's the traditional Friday. It won't change. So in that sense, related to the question on where is the booking, Of course, we are not a storage facility. Business cargo has to move. Yeah, as long as it moves within our facility, it means we have a very good process. From our perspective, I do not want to send invoices to any kind of party based on storage. If my storage revenue is very low at a certain point, it means I've done a great job, basically, because then the business is continuously moving. What we do see is that from our perspective, upon acceptance, an FWB which we receive within our system can basically have the agreement or the booked flight between the freight forwarder and the airline. It doesn't always mean that it will fly as such. It's always up to the FBL or the freight booking list which we receive from the carrier, whereby we have to conclude, or we can only conclude, what flies on that specific flight. So it's sometimes, indeed, especially on the export on the Friday, you always have that peak, whereby basically you accept business for 60 hours, 72 hours, later on after the acceptance time. So that's always the difficulty which you see on those traditional days. But I don't think that's something which we can change easily. At the same time, we always ask partners within the chain, and of course that's also based on the agreements which we have with the carriers, to at least deliver as late as possible, keeping in mind, of course, the booked flight. So 24 hours, 36 hours, or maximum 48 in advance, that would be nice.
Okay, interesting. So delivering as late as possible, just in time, basically. That's also what Sara mentioned, right in time, to be correct. So when you look at import, Jeroen, when do you start planning? Potentially, you could start planning as soon as the FFM has been sent from the origin. Do you want to have the data sooner, or is it when flight touches down in Brussels when you start planning, or when the cargo is in the warehouse?
I mean, an FFM is basically an automatic triggered message from a departure, at origin. So when the flight actually takes off, an automatic movement message is sent. It triggers the FFM, and that means depending on the flight time, you can have your FFM in at any particular moment, depending on the flight time. Of course, then already we start planning, but we are starting to plan from a breakdown process. So in some cases, we still have to wait for the instructions from the airline. What do we require to break down? What needs to be remain intact? So there is also a gap there. That depends who is going to give you the instruction. Is it somebody from origin or is it somebody from local? But basically, from that point of view, we start planning on the breakdown or leaving the intact process. Also looking to the specials, the perishables, the pharmas. That's also what we have visible, and we start planning from that particular moment.
Okay, great. So let's speed up things a little bit. There are a few questions from the audience. How does Brussels manage their truck waiting times? Is there a call forwarding system provided by Nallian, Sara? How do you manage your truck waiting times? Is there a call forwarding system?
So at this point in time, it's not managed via call forwarding. That's also due to the specific situation in Brussels. There's no central parking available. It's an open cargo zone where trucks can just drive up to the ground handling agent's premises very easily. As mentioned in the roadmap part of my presentation, we are working on that call forwarding screen, not specifically for the Brussels customers, but for some other customers we have. Because there are, of course, ground handling agents using shared or dedicated parkings where you would ideally let the trucks that are too early for their slot or who have not booked a time slot in advance park first at a remote parking, then let them book a time slot and call them forward, let's say X minutes before the start of the time slot. Then they can drive up to an access gate and get automated access based on their license plate or identity information.
Okay, great. Yes. So yes, basically infrastructure is different at every airport. So that's yeah. Okay, another one. As a community service, can you provide some insight into how drop-off pickups is managed at several warehouses is achieved? where a truck will call at multiple terminals or will carry goods for multiple carriers for one terminal during one journey. This sounds a bit like a milk run type of. Shall I repeat it, Jeroen?
I wonder if this is specified to import or export. What I hear from your side, it's focused on export.
Yeah, where a truck call will at multiple terminals or will carry goods for multiple carriers for one terminal during one journey.
Well, basically, from the point of view of the paperwork, if we focus on export and he has multiple carriers, multiple handlers, it also means that he has multiple paperwork, which he can only be appointed to one specific party. So I expect that if he goes to multiple handlers, let's say 3, he also has 3 pouches with him, with the concerned TMRs, with the concerned T documents, which are all addressed to that specific handler, and consequently carry those carriers underneath, which are allocated to that specific handler. So that already makes it easier. And in that sense, basically, although it's one truck, but it's 3 visits, I cannot elucidate on that more than that. That's it.
Yeah, this gentleman now says, yes, a milk run style can be export or import. Let's quickly have 2 additional questions before we have to move on. So maybe short answers as well. Is the API available on station level? This is from a ground handler from Africa. Is the API available on station level for a ground handler?
Simple answer, Bart. Jan, yes.
Yes. Is there more focus on import or export?
Scope today is import, but we will roll out to export as well.
Yes, okay. Okay, let's leave it like this. If there are the questions, then we will get, yeah, there is one more question, but we will move on and we will answer that question via email. So let's go to the summary. So Christopher, could you summarize today?
Yeah, I'd like to start with a question, which I'll answer. The question is, can TVM and the APIs be implemented for just one handler rather than a community? And yes, absolutely it can. What we've heard today, though, has been quite special. It's been magic because, as Jeroen pointed out, Brussels and Sara, who he complimented, and that community are really leaders in making the change. The solution now with the integration with CHAMP suddenly takes on a huge new dimension and starts to become a data-driven process. Jeroen talked about a restaurant, I talked about an e-gate. This is coming to life, and this will make Brussels stand out. With the vision that Davide and Sara outlined, that'll just, they plan to keep it that way. So I'd really like to compliment my fellow panelists because they've shown us what leadership is about. From CHAMP, our focus is always on speeding the supply chain, as Jeroen mentioned as well, and APIs allow us to do that. From Nallian, they consume the APIs. As Sara said, they also do things like resource coordination to make sure everything is ready and help sustainability by grouping collections. One of Sara's quote talked about going from, I think, 9 to 7 trucks needed. Davide talked about adoption. Of course, a technology solution is wonderful, but it can just sit on the shelf unused. And it needs sometimes a push to make it part of the habit. It doesn't start off being part of the habit, but what Jeroen and the community are doing is making it part of the normal workflow in Brussels. And that is very, very powerful. The community also will start to shape future developments together. And as Jeroen finished with, efficiency, data sharing are key, but fundamentally, the big thing is taking the speed that I started with all the way through the supply chain. And I think we've heard a wonderful story, Bart, Jan, which is saying this is coming to life in a new area. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for those words, Christopher. So making things happen collectively, that's a true testament of what's going on here today. I would like to thank the audience and also the panelists, of course, Jeroen, Sara, Davide, Christopher. Many thanks, and we look forward to all seeing you next time at the next CHAMP webinar or industry event. See you next time, and thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.